There we go. Hello and welcome all to the Thursday, March Rotary meeting. We're going to start off with the pledge, and the pledge is to voting. I was ready for it. Please follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we test of the things we think, say, and do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? I know we have a speech. And Margaret Bradford is here to give us our inspiration for the day.
Inspiration today is from C.S. Lewis. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending.
Yes. Love it, short and sweet and important. Okay, so Bev, do you have any cards that need to be?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so if you were digging your pockets, jumping around later to sell some more dollars for our 50/50 drawing at the end of the club. Already, and we also have some visiting, we have a visiting Rotarian, Eric Van Houten. So,
Okay, hi, I'm Judy, everybody. I want to introduce two guests today. It's Tammy McKay. Say hi, and Tammy is the lead medical legal death investigator for Josephine County, so we want to know her, but not that well. And then Eric and Houghton with 60 Community Health, a really interesting guy. If you don't know, he spent 3 years in Senegal as part of his story, so we're hoping to see more of him. Thank you.
I have them. Hi, Susan Fisher Mackey's here. She was a member and she's hoping to join again. I think we just have to do some paperwork probably. And also Victoria, she's going to be a member next.
All right.
And then did somebody introduce Tammy again? Tammy's here again, checking this out.
Okay, all right. Did have them at a party? I just love it, people.
And I also have an invitation or introductions there before. Becca Martin, many of you know her, but Becca is going to be my replacement at Vierra Bank as manager of the 2 branches, starting April 1st. Until then, it's still me, okay? You got it? Thank you. Please join.
We know who the boss is, and I have 2 more guests. I am going to introduce Michelle Gallus, who is a person who's going to be joining us. Many of us know her, and wonderful to have you here with us today. And then in the back, now we have Brad Converse, who is visiting from is it Wednesday Club?
Yeah.
Yes, Wednesday Club. Always glad to have Brad. So welcome to our club. Get yourself comfortable. We have a lot going on today. We have a new member invitation, and I believe probably Rudy is going to come up and give an introduction to our new member, Connor mid-flight. That's what happens at Rotary. And I will get that's a they have the invitation. Well, should be used to when you first go. And
What we need friends for.
I know, oh yeah.
All righty then.
I am here to introduce, this is weird, I just started wearing these things since cataract surgery. And when I look, I kind of have to do that. Okay. So Tony Richardson, do you want to come on?
Come on up, yeah.
Yes. I promise not to disparage you. Well, Tony grew up in Pasadena, California. In the 1950s, into a Mormon family. At 17, she entered college at the University of Utah. Well, that's not surprising. Majoring in education. She married and started teaching in 1966. No kidding? Huh, no midlife crisis or anything? Okay. She and her husband moved to Corona Del Mar, California to raise their son. When she and her husband divorced, However, she moved to Oregon. Tony had left the Mormon church and had become a true hippie. In Southern Oregon, she lived in a greenhouse, a tree house, and a cabin with no power or water. Okay. Her degree in special ed got her employment with Joe County. Her first job was to test and qualify students for special ed. Traveling in her Rambler, I love it, American, to the various schools. Still a hippie, I'll tell you. In 1981, Tony remarried and she moved to Williams on 12 acres with a horse, a donkey, and, get this, 10 dogs. When her husband, Ron, wanted to continue an engineering degree, which he had never finished, they moved to Corvallis, where he attended OSU. Tony got a job as a resource room teacher, special ed, in Albany, where she worked for 14 years. When they divorced in 1990, Tony moved to Eugene, where her son, who now was 18, attended the University of Oregon with a scholarship in tennis. Tony went to work for 4J Schools. I worked for them in Eugene. Yeah, I taught there too. In 2006, Tony retired from teaching and moved back to Southern Oregon, buying 5 acres in Murphy, raising chickens. Her mom, now a widow and 91, decided to move to Grants Pass to be near her daughter, Tony. At 100 years old, Tony's mom moved into Tony's house, where she lived actively until, get this, 103. Tony inherited her mother's rentals, which she continues to manage. Tony has 4 grandchildren living in North Carolina, who she is immensely proud of. Who wouldn't be? Her oldest granddaughter is the assistant DA in a county near Raleigh, North Carolina. Tony's passions include her dog, Reddy, a Labradoodle, gorgeous dog, playing softball, landscaping, and taking a watercolor class. She keeps fit with yoga, Pilates, swimming, and hiking. Tony's father, an active Rotarian? He's not alive. Okay. Well, maybe they resurrected him. Tony's father was an active Rotarian and volunteer in the YMCA, and her inspiration, I thought I was your inspiration, for joining Rotary. She's anxious now.
You're my second inspiration.
There we go. I'll take it. So I'd like to introduce Tony, and she's gonna be another Rotarian.
I have a separate packet of her, who's a moral Catholic, that has all the information you need in your red badge, and I'd love to talk, we have a lot in common.
Yeah, you do.
Forever, because I lived in Williams too, and Williams City, no running water, no electricity, you know, the whole thing, back to, you know, wherever I went back to. I came back though. So anyway, that was wonderful. We also have another award today. We have another non-vocational award that I'm gonna have Doug come up, a very special person in our community that we would like to honor. It's one thing that's part of in January is vocational month, and we have just really want to recognize community members who are not necessarily Rotarians, but do amazing non-Rotarian work and are at the highest level of their vocation. So Doug, I'll let you introduce that.
So I get the pleasure of coming up here and talking about Melissa Vierra from Evergreen Bay. And I don't even know where to start, because my memory doesn't go back far enough to know, to remember when it was I might have had first contact with you, probably 20 years ago in something, and the help you give. Melissa is behind the scenes at Evergreen Bank. You probably wouldn't even, unless you've been in the world of trying to do things in the community and finding resources, you probably wouldn't know who she is and what she does. But she is the ball of energy, the person at Evergreen Bank that most of us have gone to lean on for resources and help and guidance. And Melissa's that one, and it is a pleasure to give you some kind of recognition, because I think you deserve tremendous recognition. When you don't put yourself out there and you don't promote yourself, you promote Evergreen, you promote other things. And I would say that not only do people go to her to ask for help, but she'll come frequently and understand what's going on in the community and offer help. And that's one of the most wonderful things she does as well, is she searches out entities that are doing something. She says, hey, we can help you with that. Why don't you come to us and talk about it? And it is amazing, and I'm so thrilled that you're in the community and the things you do, and I get the pleasure of being up here.
Yay.
You are just a wonderful asset, and we really appreciate it. And this is for you. Thank you very much.
If you were,
Yeah.
let her speak
Okay.
just a little bit. You always have great things to say.
You guys, thank you so much for this award. Coming from this club in particular, this I value very much because I know so many of you, I see you at events and you're the volunteers that are making it happen. So for you to give me this means a lot to me. And so thank you. And Valerie told me I could speak a little bit about some projects going on in the community, but before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about volunteering because I think it's pertinent to this club and me personally and Evergreen. We talk a lot about how do we inspire people and sustain volunteerism. That's going to be a topic that we're going to hear a lot about. And working for Evergreen for 30 years, I've noticed a couple of things. And I have to say that for me, volunteering and being involved in community events, those of you who've known me and seen my career know me even before I was at Evergreen. Volunteering has been the key to my maturing into an individual. It builds character. It's made me more stronger, resilient person. And I value everything I've got from signing up and getting involved. I've learned from people. I've been challenged in my beliefs. And I thought, wow, this is making me more well-rounded. So I always encourage people to get involved because you grow so much from it. A couple of things I've noticed about people in volunteering is even if we're little, I'm noticing even with my son growing into adult, we all want to know that we're good at something and we can contribute, and that thing matters. Secondly, I've noticed something about human nature, and that is I actually think we are born and designed to give and receive. And when that reciprocal dynamic is going on in a healthy way, it heals us. It heals our community. When it's going on in a negative way, that's when we experience pain and trauma. The good news is by signing up to be a volunteer, you can heal that pain and trauma by just giving out more good giving and receiving. And that's what happens when you sign up for something like clothing fair. I had the experience of that job no one wants, taking the hangers off all the clothes. You know, anyone in that spot's gonna look like a salmon that just came out of the river, just covered with barbs, you know. And I was in it up to my waist and thinking, oh, okay, you know, and in comes a lady and she has some money in her hand and an armful of clothes. And I said, hey, let me help you with that. And she just pulled back and I thought, oh, she doesn't want to give this up. And I said, I looked her in the face and I said, no, I got you. And then we hung the clothes up. I high-fived her. I'm like, you scored, girl. You know, she went on. But she said, you know what? I think you meant that. And I said, yeah, I want something good for you. And, you know, you get that good feeling when you hear that volunteer good feeling. But it goes to another level because I looked up and I saw the Bear Hotel and I saw that it had arts. And I happen to have an art degree, so. And I remembered that I worked retail when I was going to college. And for a moment, I thought, I am supposed to be here right now. Today, I'm supposed to be here right now doing this. And that, when you experience that as a volunteer, it takes it to another level.
you're in the zone at that point. You think, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and we all want to know what that is. And then I snapped out of it, you know, the next person comes up and she said, how do I volunteer? And the next person is like, this is really cool. How do I volunteer? And Jan, everybody in this room is volunteering at that event. So I think that to inspire volunteers is to remind them what you're going to get from volunteering is healing, personal growth, strength for yourself, and healing for your community. And if you haven't experienced it, go ahead, try, sign up for just even 1 day or 1 hour. And you're going to get something from it that and realize your own potential. And that's how I always invite people to volunteer. So don't be scared, you're built for it. Come on, let's go. So I want to thank you guys so much for being volunteers and all the work you do. Important projects in our community, Children's Museum, Hillcrest Veterans Village, evergreen signing up for that. YMCA is doing a pool, Road Winter Fest, so many important things to get involved in. So thank you so much.
All right. No, I can't, I mean, every place I go, she's there, and she's just a big part of all of it. Okay, so we asked the please. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that was wonderful. Like I said, I see her everywhere, and believe me, I couldn't say more than yes, volunteering is really what gives you that high. So keep on doing it and bring more people in. Okay, so our program today, I'm going to have Josh Pela introduce our guests. We're gonna learn about healthcare. Oh, so come on, Josh.
All right, I'm gonna do the most dangerous thing, which is try to introduce your boss. And I'm gonna wing it as well. I'm gonna let him tell the story and kind of all the other things, but I just want to kind of put it in context that, Max is new to our community, came here 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago now. Uprooted his family from the Hood River area where he was working at a federal qualified health center. And, we didn't have a relationship with him. And I came all the way down here from Salem because I really believed in what All Care's mission was, and that, this kind of community kind of support, that All Care was this kind of unicorn organization with this unicorn leader. And I'm like, how are we gonna find another unicorn? We found another unicorn. And he really has been exactly what we needed at that time to be able to really update what we were doing, really empower my fellow coworkers to really be creative and innovative in a way that we really weren't doing before, and now really trying to grow, but also really keeping the heart of who we are, which is a part of this community and building the places where either we're the first 100,000 or the first 10,000 or the last $100,000 of a $1 billion project, because that's what it takes to be able to build communities. So I'll let him kind of tell you all the great things he's done and all the great things he's gonna do. But I can also tell you it's 100% true. So with that, Max, come on up.
Thank you. Isn't there a movie about a unicorn dying? Well, thank you for having me. I didn't really plan a whole lot here. I figured I'd answer a lot of questions and really be of service to you. But I'll share a little background just to, give you a little grounding in who I am, why I joined All Care, what I love about the organization, how we've transitioned into the community, and then really just open it up and answer whatever questions you guys have about healthcare, about whatever you want to talk about. I'm happy to use the time that serves you best. So as Josh mentioned, my family moved here from Hood River, where I was the CEO of a federally qualified health center, kind of like Eric's organization, Siskiyou Community Health Center. And those are great organizations, very mission driven, primary care, dental, behavioral health, all combined. And I learned a lot in that journey about service. That was right in the middle of COVID. So, I joined about, I think, 6 months before COVID started, and got to do the frontline work with the team out there, and had a pretty big impact on the community, which was energizing, scary, all together. Prior to that, I spent about 10 years at Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield and Cambia Health Solutions, where I was a VP of innovation and also the director of all the online solutions. So kind of brought to life myregents.com, provider solutions, so all the digital stuff. And so my background is more in technology and product development. Prior to entering healthcare, I spent my career in online banking and bill pay back in early 2000 and what would that be, 2003-ish? Actually even earlier than that, I think, 2001. So when you guys started probably, looking at your balances online, the company that I was part of is in Hillsboro, up near Intel, and a little startup up there called Carillion. We ended up selling the company to Check Free out of Atlanta and then to Fiserv out of Wisconsin. And I actually grew up in Wisconsin. I'm a Packer, she said.
49.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to go over real well here. Yeah, we're on our way up. Yeah, my first job was at Arthur Anderson, which is no longer in existence. I got out before Enron, so I'm a pre-Enron guy. Fortunately, some of my friends weren't, which was rough. But that was a really good lesson in ethics, right? The importance of ethics in business. I've carried that with me ever since that early career experience. Something that we talk about in our organization. And I feel blessed to be part of an organization that, really treats ethics and community responsibility kind of at the highest level. We're a B Corp. Some of you may not know what that is, but essentially it's using business as a force for good. It was one of the reasons I joined Allcare. I found it very attractive. I've worked in publicly traded, for-profits where every quarter you got to like race to the earnings. And then I've worked at, nonprofit FQHC. Very different experiences, even from a governance and how you operate and think, longer term. And I feel like Allcare has a great balance. You have some of those great nonprofit intangibles about community service, but you have the efficiencies that we often see in, corporate world. And it's been a real good fit, in my opinion, for what I want to be doing at this stage in my career. And the kind of community impact is pretty impressive. The organization really leans in, and like Josh said, we kind of serve as a seed funder of a lot of things. And the better we do, the more we can impact the community. And I'm very passionate about working upstream in health. It was Melissa, right? Talking about volunteerism, I think, that's so important. Personally, we landed here, we ran a junior in high school, mid-year. Prior to that, I did move my older two to the river from Portland. And so they also moved in high school. So, whatever problems they have later in life, I'm sure they'll. Is there an entire industry based on blaming your parents? So I accept that. And so, we moved him as a junior mid-year, and he started playing tennis a couple of years prior to that in Hood River, and really started to enjoy the game. So, we decided, we'd really like him to play, but North Valley High School didn't have a tennis team. And there's all these rules. You can't just like play on another school. It changes like your classification. So we asked Tim Sam, who's the athletic director, well, what can we do? The kid really wants to play tennis. Well, you could start a tennis team. Now, this is like 2 weeks before the tennis season starts. But being someone who's in innovation in the background, it's like, well, if somebody can land a rocket, on the ground, there's got to be a way to start a tennis team. So, about 24 hours of CBT training and background checks, and thankfully my wife helped me out with that. We were able to get the team off the ground within 2 weeks and get it started and actually be qualified to participate in meets and all that stuff. So, what I learned in that experience, well, anything is possible, including, working with a school district to rapidly start a new program. But also just the value of that experience. First of all, just doing it with my wife has been really rewarding, especially as our kids are getting older, it's really something that we've enjoyed doing together. And then the other thing is the kids, so like the first day, you form a circle, everybody introduces themselves, right? One kid has a hoodie on and he's facing the other direction. And so, we're like trying to get him to introduce himself, he won't do it. So, but by like, I'd say 2 weeks into the season, we're now doing meets, we're getting on these buses, you gotta go like Klamath Falls, it's like a 2-hour drive. And the kids have to do stuff to entertain themselves. And he's joking around. You've seen this like 180-degree turn, and a kid that was, potentially gonna have some challenges socially, but now has been embraced by their teammates. So, we're not gonna necessarily compete with St. Mary's, but we're having fun and it's been a good experience. So All Care Health, as a B Corp and a nonprofit, or not, as a B Corp, is really, in my mind, a great community partner. I love the local aspect of what we do. I think it gives us a competitive advantage against the United Healthcares of the world and these really large organizations that, they might, be a little better on, certain elements of data analytics and AI and that stuff, but they're not listening to the community, they're not present. And I think, I'm confident that will set us apart, to continue as a healthcare leader in the area. I've been talking for a while, so I'll just pause there and really open it up to you guys to ask you what your questions are about, healthcare or really any topic that is interesting to you. I'm happy to field the question as best I can. And worst case, I got Josh, he'll solve it. Yes, Brad.
Give me a mic here.
Yeah, that or repeat the question.
Yeah.
Big picture question for you. What does healthcare look like in the US when it's working? Like, what is a solution for healthcare in the United States?
Yeah, well, hello. That's next level of volume. Okay, so for me, healthcare working is much more focused on the upstream aspect of healthcare, where when you think of healthcare, it's your wellness and your well-being, it's not your sick care. And so much of the spending is sick care, right? So let me give you an example. There's a drug that we, recently had a patient that we covered it for, and it's $3.2 million one-time use. And the drug, unfortunately doesn't work all that well, but it's like people are desperate and hopeful that it will. And so you're in the zone of really tough decisions in healthcare, right? Where, what could that 3.2 million do to our schools? What could it do for, preventing things like substance use disorder and other issues that we have as a society? So to me, healthcare right now there's certain entities that have learned how to extract large sums of money for questionable outcomes. And, you all probably realize this, whether you run a business, whether you pay your health insurance, it's extraordinarily expensive. Like when you get into that 50 to 65 range pre-Medicare, you could be up looking at $4,000 a month, right? And you may still have a pretty significant deductible. I mean, that's crazy, right? But so many of the drugs here, let me give you this advice. Every time you see a drug ad, which is like every second commercial, just Google the price. And here's what I found. Minimum, it's about cost of a monthly rent or a mortgage. So you're looking like a good deal is like $1,300 a month. Some of it, it's pretty typical. It's like $25,000 a month, right? And these are for, conditions that aren't necessarily that uncommon. You've got like things like Crohn's disease, psoriasis, like some of these drugs are, you're paying $300,000 a year. So when you think about, your premium, well, it doesn't take that many folks on those drugs to ramp that cost up. Now, as a country, we want to be innovative, right? We want to be a leader, but the pricing is so off the charts that it's going to break, the country at some point. So to me, it's like we got to reassess how we spend the money, what are we willing to spend on that, and how do we redeploy that money upstream? Now, I've got some radical ideas that probably are illegal. But like, yeah, for now. I threw them out sometimes and like, with the folks who are more compliant, sorry, they'll correct me very quickly. But I was thinking about like my own journey in life, right? At some point, I'm gonna hit a point of, more, say I have a serious illness or cancer late in life. At some point, I'm gonna hit a point where there's gonna be a choice to make. And, the quality of life versus the cost, you know? And what if my insurance company said to me, instead of spending $500,000 on medication, what if we took half of that and we deployed it into something you cared about, a local program or solution, maybe it's a sport kids program, whatnot. And you forego that. Would I do that? Maybe. Now, these are, interesting issues when it comes to like Medicaid because, folks aren't paying that bill. And, would we ever consider like radical different ways of making those trade-offs as a society? So healthcare, if it's working, to me, it's much more affordable and it's much more focused on, your aspirations and your health.
I am in the business line of business where we teach people how to blame their parents. I'm LCSW, and the major concern I have with regards to healthcare is in the mental health world. I want to say, first of all, that I think All Care does an amazingly good job. And I know you personally have increase their financial solvency. So I thank you for that. But I am wondering, especially since the BHN, the Behavioral Health Network, was dissolved, I'm wondering how you are making mental health care more available to our population, given that almost every physical health problem has a mental health component. And we have in this area a tremendous amount of things like substance abuse and depression. And I really, really want to emphasize what an amazing job All Care does in general.
Well, great questions. So first off, my daughter's graduating with a master's in social work. So thank you for the work you do and the challenges you face. She tells me these stories that are incredible all the time, and she's just an intern. So, my view on behavioral health, well, first of all, we have an incredible partner in behavioral health called Options. And so they they gave me a tour and a ride around what they do and some of the challenges they face with, like urgent, emergent issues. And so we definitely rely on our partners, Eric's organization as well. And we really look to empower them as much as possible. My view on the issues around mental health is how do we move upstream? So, what are the drivers? If you think about society, you think about the pressures of social media on our kids. If you think about generational substance use disorder, how do you actually bend that curve? Should we set, I don't know if you guys have ever heard like the concept of a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. Like, what as a community do we want to go after? What if we committed to a goal like we are going to eliminate substance use disorder in our youth and our young adults? What would we do? How would we marshal together as a community to attack that problem? How would we deploy our volunteering towards a single aim and mission? So part of what I'm hoping to do, and I appreciate you mentioning the solvency, is we had to get ourselves right first, right? If we're running at losses every year and we are, barely hanging on, we can't think bigger. And, I want to free up people from the daily compliance chores of serving the Oregon Health Authority to thinking about how do you actually impact your community in a really transformational way. So that's the journey we're on as an organization. You know, how do we master the basics? How do we get some of that on autopilot so we can go after these big problems? And you all will have to be a part of that, right? You see it, you know it, and how do we get organized around that? And how do we measure it? How do we know we're making an impact? We can do that on an individual basis, right? Like the volunteering work, but how do you go bigger as a community? How do you really hold up to do something that really changes the future for the youth? That's my hope and what I'm passionate about.
Are you still coaching?
I am, Gene. My son even, so the question is, am I still coaching? My son graduated and he's at U of O. But you can't leave those kids, that, and especially once you do a couple of years, it's like you feel guilty, right? So now I'm stuck coaching. What do you coach? Tennis.
Okay.
So, and I know that one of the earlier speakers said they had a son that was got a tennis scholarship. So if he's local, I'm very interested in succession planning. Happy to take volunteers for that.
My question was, you say you're a B Corp, and you're not a nonprofit and you're not a for-profit, so kind of explain to me how All Care's funding comes about.
Yeah, so we're funded from a couple sources. Number one, our biggest line of business is the coordinated care organization. That's what serves the Medicaid population. And more and more people are on Medicaid, right? Which is actually also a testament to our society. We got, maybe we need to bend that curve as well. And then we have a Medicare line of business as well. And then we have our All Care Medical Group, which, some of you may know as Mountain View or Wellspring. We now have 7 clinics. And that happens because a lot of primary care providers struggle to maintain their business independently. Because as pharma grabs and sucks more money out of the equation, the providers are the ones who end up paying because there's a limited budget, right? And other players are better at, the navigation with how to extract more. So a lot of times providers will come to us and say, we're struggling to make a go of it. Can we join as employees? So they move from being business owners to employees. But we really want to maintain independent primary care, which is quite valuable. So the funding will come from government funding streams, from directs, like other commercial insurers. We actually negotiate with other insurance companies for the providers. So we run an independent physician association. So we have to negotiate with the MODAs and the other carriers on behalf. So it's an interesting dynamic. We're both a insurance company, a provider, and we negotiate and do services for providers. We run their electronic health record system. We provide technical support. We do their billing for them. So it's a pretty wide-ranging organization.
So it's kind of like the overhead, so that's what a lot of times gets the regular primary care, is that that is an overall cost that you can kind of consolidate and do for them, am I correct in that?
That's right, and they're also being squeezed, right? So if the insurance companies have to pay more in drug costs, they squeeze the people who have less power. So if you're an independent provider, you have less negotiating power than pharma, right? Well, pharma greases the skids with the federal government to make sure that they have protections. And so they are masters of lobbying at that level. And they find a way to guarantee the drug has to be covered. And so, but again, that pulls more and more money out of the system, and the local providers end up being the ones who typically suffer the most because, the insurance company can say, well, yeah, you go pound sand, if we lose you, somebody else will take the contract at the lowest price. So we try to fight and defend primary care by pulling them together and using negotiating leverage by joining forces together.
So if Medicaid goes away, is there a problem and that's another thing, because we're all watching funding from the federal government go away. And I know Oregon's working really hard to try to keep it, but where do you see that going?
It's definitely targeted for shrinking. So they're cutting costs pretty significantly in terms of, there's some creative ways that Oregon has been able to bring more federal money in. They have this thing called a provider tax, with, you could have Josh give you a whole funny spiel on that thing. But they're gonna cut a lot of that. So the question is, what do you do? Do you find other revenue sources? Do you cut costs across the stream? So I sit on the governor's task force for Medicaid sustainability, and we're talking about these issues right now. But at this point, it is unfortunately gonna be some kind of cut, so it'll probably be benefit reductions. They're talking about eliminating, or not eliminating, but cutting in half the quality incentive program, which our providers depend on. So our local providers get paid when they do well, so if they, meet certain criteria where people are, their blood pressure is under control, their diabetes in control, the state would pay them a bonus. And a lot of our providers have become very dependent on that as a core revenue stream, and they're gonna cut that in half, is what they're saying. So back to like the area that has grown the least, primary care only grew 1.8% about a year and a half ago in the latest data I've seen. Whereas other areas are growing 10-15% a year, and they're cutting the one that's growing the least. So it'll be negative essentially. If you think about, inflation, that's outpacing 1.8%. And then you take a 50% cut on their bonus on top of that. So yeah, unfortunately, that's what we have to, fight against. And that's something Josh does daily in the state capitol.
Scars to prove it.
He's got a question.
Sorry, I'm not really loud too. My name is Victoria. I'm work for ODHS Child Welfare. And so with the families that we serve, they work with all care in a lot of different ways, whether it's primary care for the kids or options, choices, even stuff like that. So I mean, what programs or available programs does all care have here in Josephine County that could help the family as a whole unit rather than harming out, whether it's substance use disorder treatment through choices, mental health through options, getting medical, like if there's like medical neglect or physical abuse with the primary care providers. Because I know DHS, especially here in Josephine County, being so rural and having limited options for different sources, would love to know how we can partner with all care to get more of a family unit and cohesive approach to healing the families here in the county.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think number one, there's certain things we do directly, we administer, and then there's things we do through partners. So directly with all care, we are administering a set of benefits called health-related social needs. And the biggest one is support to avoid eviction. So we're actually paying the rent and utility bills for families. And the last I looked at it, we did 3,800 people. And that was 4.5 times more than what we saw in Jackson County with another CCO. We've done 11% of the total rental payments in the state, and I think pound for pound, that's probably about 3 times what any other one did on a per member basis. So that's an incredible benefit, but unfortunately, it's probably going to go away in September. It's targeted as one of the likely federal cuts. But along with that benefit comes a variety of other support, like nutrition support. So we have, depending on if someone qualifies based on, different conditions that are requirements, they can get food for their family. And then we also have like climate and other devices. In terms of like the broader wraparound services, we have a group called care coordinators that try to help patients navigate what you're talking about, where you have multiple needs. We don't necessarily have one person that can, solve all those problems for someone, but the care coordinators know all the resources and they serve as navigators. And we have a pretty incredible team. In fact, some of the stories of the impact, we've been starting to capture these videos. So I'd encourage you to go to our website. I think one of our videos is up there that we just had. But these are life-changing things. Folks who were in abusive relationships, who got rental support so they could exit that relationship, and then found a job and were able to kind of get themselves back on their feet. So some really good stuff happening, but we have to do it as with our partners, because it's complex for a lot of folks.
our time is running out, but I can explain to you enough. I would have a quick question. Didn't they outlaw drug companies advertising, or was that just in my imagination? Didn't they outlaw drug companies advertising? And I sat through like the last 3 nights, it's just like over and over.
So they withdrew it in 94. So it had been paid for years, and then in 94 they allowed.
I think it should be banned. I think, because I know how much money they pay for that, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, thank you so much. We could go on forever with all that All Care does in our community, and that's where I go, All Care. So, okay, with that, I do have a few announcements, and a couple of people wanted announcements. Do you want to do Sergeant Arms first? Yes, let's do Sergeant Arms first, and I have a few announcements at the end, so I kept any announcements at the end to make sure that our important people have the opportunity.
I just want to say, one of the things I really enjoy about Rotary is the programming that we have. So thanks, Josh and Max, that was great. I always learn something when I come to these meetings. We're gonna jump right into Happy Bucks, and the theme today is going to be music and happy memories. So I want you to be thinking about some song or some music that you like that kind of recalls a happy memory for you. And I'd like to start off with just some factoids about significant musical events today that happened today. So key movements in music history that reshaped culture include the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, 1964. Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock, 1969. And the launch of MTV in 1981. That was a game changer to me. Anyway, so think of some song or music that brings you a happy memory. And I'd like to share one for me. The song that I like, or the music, it's by, you've probably heard this before, I know you have. Anyway, it's Eric Satier's, and I cannot quite say it, but it's Gymnopédie, right? Kelly's nodding, so I like it. And the first what do they call it? The first movement has been defined also as variations on a theme, and it was done by well, it's been done by a lot of people. But if you remember the old Blood, Sweat, and Tears, they did it. So I just want to play a little piece of it because it's so pretty, and I'm sure you've heard it. So give me just a quick moment here. Let's see, where did it go? Well, I cannot find it. Anyway, it's Eric Satier's variations on a theme, and maybe I do have it. Oh, never mind. Anyway, so my best friend as a little boy was this guy named Gary Brown. And Gary Brown was like one of the sweetest guys in the world. And I moved through high school and college and so on. And Gary was always ahead of the curve. Culturally, he always knew things before the rest of us did. I mean, he knew. I remember when I was a little kid, he said, "Jim, you gotta watch Man from U.N.C.L.E. on TV. I've never heard of that." That became one of my favorite TV shows ever, Man from U.N.C.L.E. At any rate, he's one who turned me on to Variations on Theme by Eric Satie. And so whenever I hear that, it reminds me of Gary. Gary died when he was about 31 or 32. He had leukemia, but he was one of the sweetest people I'd ever met in the world. And he was just one of these kind of people beloved by all and kind of cool. My sister said I was always on kind of almost cool, but not cool. Gary was cool. So anyway, so what memories would you like to share? And I think we're gonna call on Judy.
Actually, I didn't quite get the memo right. I just was thinking of a song that I really liked.
That's all right.
And so the song that I like right now is Happy by Pharrell Williams. It just cheers me up, kind of like it cheers me up when I see Josh Ballack in the room. And I want to thank Max very much for being here and your talk, charming, interesting. Super glad you're here. And my own personal experience with All Care, I've been involved in raising money for a lot of different causes. I don't think they've ever said no. They maybe didn't give me how much I asked for, but they never said no, and that's huge.
Nobody's never said no.
Oh, yeah, so pass that on, so here's 20 Happy Bucks.
Yay, thank you.
So for me, I love music, I love lots of music, I love Alone We Drive with the stereo running, but a special moment for me was a meteor shower. And so right after work, the wife and I, we went up to Lost Creek, launched the boat. Drifting around with just the nav lights on, electric motor, everything quiet. The only lights from the nav lights and the stereo. And lay on the seats watching the meteor shower, and the horizon was a little bit of lightning. And the soundtrack for that was Kenny G. The album was Breathless.
All right.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, for me, Imagine the Beatles, it has done so much for my family. My daughter, it was her thing for many years. And so that's one thing that really makes a difference to me. And Kelly's gotta say something here. But the other thing, the memory is Sunday when we did Peace Flags. And we did, and this is a sample of it, and I'm sorry to put this into this, but I'm sorry, I have to. We had an absolutely great time, and that's what Happy Bucks are about, and we had maybe having a member coming in, she called me yesterday, because she thought it was such a great day.
In fact, I ended up having to go home with a sore throat. It was a good stuff, thank you. I'm gonna throw us back, cause obviously, for me, music was pretty much everything. And, having been a music teacher for, I don't know how long, way over 30 years. Yeah, forever. I'm gonna take you back to one of my early loves of music, and that was, come on, I know you're with me, Looney Tunes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, cartoons really brought little kids into the world of music, good music. And, so I'll leave you with that.
A song with a memory. When I was about 5 or 6, my dad had a convertible Corvette, an older convertible Corvette he would drive me around. And I was with my mom and my dad, and my mom loves some good funk music. And so we were listening to Brick House, but I thought it said Brick House. So I kept moving. And that was the day that I found out that was not the worst song. But I also have some happy bucks. At the club, we made a huge announcement yesterday, and I feel relieved and happy and nervous and all sorts of feelings. But we had a donor who helped us purchase a new property up on Washington Boulevard to open up a teen center. So that club, our teen club, will be open in the fall, but very exciting news.
I have 5 happy bucks. And my memory is very first rock concert I ever went to was the Chambers Brothers backing up Janis Joplin, backing up Jimi Hendrix.
Wow. Wow.
When I wanted to be a bad boy, I listened to the song, and I think it's Bonnie Raitt who sings. Let's give them something to talk about. But then I remember I'm supposed to be a good boy. And this is a song I learned in Mexico in the 70s. It goes, Resucitó, 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 Hallelujah.
Didn't know you could sing so good.
Who are you? Action today.
I want to say thank you to Max and Melissa for your lovely presentations, for all that you do for the community. Melissa mentioning all the events that are taking place. Thank you. Max, community responsibility. Yeah, we're all sitting here. Thank you also on behalf of the Rotary Club, the Thursday Club, for your sponsoring the Porch Fest event that's coming up in June. Another event at June 20th, third Saturday, and we started selling. Okay, honey. Okay, come Thank you so much. And on behalf of the club, we would like to gift you
gift you a t-shirt. So before you leave today, please see one of us crazies at the back and pick up your free t-shirt. But thank you for Evergreen, for all care, for your generosity. Thank you so much.
Well, I thought the challenge was a song that makes you happy and brings back a happy memory.
Yeah.
And my song is the Hokey Pokey. Because we used to sing in this club every week. And one day I picked the Hokey Pokey as the song and everybody in the room got up and did it. That was memorable.
Yeah.
So I have lots of happy bucks, Max and all care and start the veterans votes for you. Thank you. But geez, we can't stop one of the others. A memory of a song that makes me happy was we had a foreign exchange student, and I don't know, 15 years ago or something, and she rewrote the words to Roy Orbison's Pretty Woman, and she did it to Pillow Pillow and Taking a Nap. It was just really funny and fun, and we've sung it here a few times when we used to sing a long time ago. It was really neat, but she sort of taught me that it was okay to be goofy and sort of silly in those certain ways, and that was all right. This was from a 15-year-old, and it was a really lovely point of hers that you could play in that way. And then the other memory I have is Beverly singing to our kids, "You Are My Sunshine," and that was a lot of fun.
She's the last one. This is a song that I heard about 3 years ago. Maddie was in the car and my daughter, and she was playing through the stereo. And it was Alexander Jean. They're sort of a newer band, and it's called Roses and Violets. Look it up because it's one of those songs that you have to belt out when it's playing. So we both didn't matter whether the windows were open or whatever, but we just belted it out. I love this.
Well, thanks, everybody. And I found my song. I'm going to play it real fast. If it comes up, please. I'm sure you remember this. Variations on a theme. All right, we've had enough. Anyway, give me something. Good song, Val.
Is it going into
Like
your
that.
Announcements.
Okay, I know, good announcement. This is, the Rainbow Connection is mine, and no, that was done by Kermit the Frog. And I sing that as sadly, as it actually is sad time, because anytime any of my animals passed away, I'm always holding them when I pass away, and I'm always singing them that song. So as much as it's a sad moment, it's also a very happy moment, because it brings back that feeling of having them in my life and what a wonderful time it was. So that is my by far very favorite card. I do have a winner for our card, so I will 5 of diamonds. If you're a 5 of diamonds person, then you are the winner today. And I'm going to start with some announcements, because we do have some quick announcements. Food bank donations, March 19th, I think, is the Friday or 20th. That starts off kids going off to school, needing foods for backpacks. Giving the kids some food this next couple weeks so that we can get that to the food bank to distribute to schools. So that's going on right now. You saw the Porch Fest. I'm modeling the t-shirts that we ordered for Rotarians at work, so that when we go out into the community, people can see Rotarians and see what we're doing as we do cleaning and when we do the trellis working, whatever we do in the community. So this is kind of a fundraiser. So the Porch Fest t-shirts, I think, are 10, correct? These are 15 because we're trying to, it's a fundraiser for our group. So they are back there. Some people actually ordered some in sizes. And so there's an envelope back there. I'm in the honor system. $15. You can put your money in there and just put paid next to your name. And then we have extra ones. We'll sell the extra ones too. So those are there. Peace Walk, I don't know if anyone wants to say anything, but I can say it was wonderful. I've heard nothing but good things about that. That was absolutely wonderful. I do have the Peace Pole. Yes, okay, Jude, then come on, say something. I do have the peace bowl in the back of my car. So somebody brought it over from Port Orford that had a doctor's appointment at All Care. Yay. So they brought it, so it's in the back of my car. So if anyone wants to take a look at it afterwards, I'll show it to you.
Okay, so you might notice some of the peace flags displayed up on that window that we brought in to show you guys the ones who didn't make it out there. But and that's just a tiny fraction of what was designed that day. So I just wanted to share a few things with you about the day. We expected that we might get 50, 100 people. We hoped for 200. In reality, we think we had about 400 people there, even despite all the noise. So we hope to get a couple of dollars thrown in a jar to donate to the Rotary Foundation for Peace Fellowships. And we donated today over $300. We hope to teach a few people a few things about Rotary, and we now have at least one new member. We have Susan Fisher Mackey coming back. We have about 20 new people following us on our Facebook page, and a whole bunch of comments about we want to learn more about Rotary because of this event. And so the whole day was beautiful. It was filled with so many tears and happiness and singing and love. And a few of the comments we heard were things like, this was so great for my children to see people coming together and caring for each other. And we need this more than ever. And the spirit of peace is alive in Grants Pass. And thank you so much for such a beautiful event. Every moment was special. We loved all the activities and feeling so welcome in a group of strangers, and providing a safe space for people to gather and breathe and reflect was something so needed and appreciated. And so it was just an amazing day, and I just want to one more time thank the volunteers in this room who helped make it happen. Lisa's not here today, but she's up there. But you know, Greg and Patrice and Tommy and Kelly, there's so many people in this room who helped make it happen, and I just can't thank you enough.
And you gave me that, was really then. Okay. Sign up, so if anyone else wants to sign up this coming Tuesday at 5:30, we are going to be knocking on doors for Porch Fest people who may not be around on the weekend, but may be there on a Tuesday afternoon. I would love to have more people sign up for that. There's only myself and Tackett. So anybody else who'd like, some people who've done it before, Jan, yeah, sign up. So anyway, I'll put that out for people to sign up. That's the rest of my announcements. Doug has 2 announcements to give.
So yeah, next Tuesday, that evening, announcements, gathering stage for Porch Fest, and then the following Sunday, which is the 15th, same thing. We'll send P-mails out for the Porch Fest sign up, try to get it out tomorrow, and then also P-mail announcements to recruit volunteers to help make the wedding arbors for the county parks. They want a couple wedding arbors. And the high school interns will be there from Gladiola, and it'd be lovely to have a few of us there. So that's gonna be a Tuesday and a Wednesday next 2 weeks. Those high school students need to see functional adults and how we all work with each other and everything. So do show up, functional adults, okay? Judy, stay away. Diana, you can't be there either.
Yeah, it's kind of questionable. You lose a lot of us at that rate.
Very quickly, I know a lot of you know Laurel Sampson, a longstanding member of the club. Anyway, I think it was just yesterday, she and her husband Scott moved to Denver, Colorado. They have 2 daughters and their husbands and some grandkids. And anyway, I have their address if anyone would ever want to contact them, send them a card or something, because you know, they were wonderful people and they will be missed in our community.
Okay, any other announcements to be made? Well, I had, if that's the case, I will give you, did we find out where a winner was, 5 of diamonds? Okay, great. Alrighty, and so first of all, just a thought today. Healthcare is the art of turning compassion into action. I think that was good. And it is health that is real wealth, not pieces of gold and silver. Mahatma Gandhi, I think we all know that. So thank you for being here, and I will see you next Thursday. If you want to see the piece of gold, it is in the back of my car. So you're welcome to do that. So thank you for being here. And if anybody wants a picture taken with our cute little Yoda, you can win extra prizes for being here at Rotary. So come on up. The Sunday, porch fest.
I want to say it's like afternoon one, but I don't hold it off. Send that out.
If it's 1 o'clock, I could do that.
Have you gotten the email?
I can, yeah, I haven't, but I can.
Okay, so they'll send out a sort of a sign up reminder in those. I'm gonna send out a email on that. Try to get it done tomorrow.
Like somebody's planning, like, I don't ask questions.
I tried to.
I don't, so Boston is down there, but he should send out an email to, like, those few that go online to just